Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Andy Linehan, president of the City Club of Portland. Welcome to today's Friday Forum, Neighborhoods in the Crossfire. Is Portland Trigger Happy? With John Canda, executive director of Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods, LaSeanta Jones, a teen voice from the middle of it all, Officer Michael Stradley of Portland's Northeast Precinct, and our moderator, Renee Mitchell, a columnist at the Oregonian. Before we begin our program, however, I have our usual items of City Club business. First and foremost, I'm really very pleased to announce that last week City Club surpassed its annual fund drive goal. It was a great accomplishment. This is a tough year for nonprofits throughout the city, and we thought it would be a real struggle to attain our annual fund drive goal, and we made it. We're grateful to every single one of you who contributed to City Club's annual fund drive this year. Not only does your donation allow the club to continue to offer high-quality forums, research, and special events, but your support is a reflection of your tireless commitment to community engagement and betterment. Only with your tax-deductible contribution does City Club have the resources to address the range of issues that affect our community by means of so many innovative programs and research. So thank you so much. This week also marks the end of our City Club Spring membership drive, and it was a very successful one. We added 116 new and returning members to the club over the last 3 months. As you recall, each week we've held raffle prizes for new members, and this is our final week, and so our last prize. So if you join City Club this week, we'll put your name in a drawing for a special surprise gift package courtesy of Powell's City of Books. So membership brochures and forms are available on each table or from a staff member, and please do join today if you're not a member. Although there is no program next week, our Friday forums resume on June 4th when City Club conducts our annual meeting. At the annual meeting, we will elect a new Board of Governors, present our annual awards, and hear from our special guest, former Portland Mayor Bud Clark. He has promised us a tavern keeper's tales of life and mayorhood. So join us for the fun, and you can make your reservation either today or online at www.pdxcityclub.org. Over the course of the summer, City Club has a feast of special food-related programs. The first is a series of 10 fundraising dinners called Citizen Salons, all to benefit City Club. These salons are intimate dinners held in private homes, and each features a guest provocateur who will stimulate discussion on a particular topic. Seating is limited. In fact, 3 of the salons have already filled up, and several have only a few seats left. So you can pick up a brochure today, and then you can call the City Club office, or you can make your dinner reservations by phone, or I think you can do it on the web as well. The other special program I want to tell you about today is called True to the Food, a 3-part after-work series that looks at the quality, equity, and economics of our food supply. At special food-related venues around the city, each evening discussion will feature a buffet of food policy perspectives, accompanied by seasonal hors d'oeuvres, local wines, and thoughtful discussion. This series can accommodate only 75 people, and ticket sales close May 28th. So call the City Club and sign up. Finally, I'd like to extend a special welcome from City Club to the students from the Quest School who are here today with their teacher, Jeffrey Dakin. And thank you also to Lindsay Hart, Neal, and Weigler who sponsored the students this year. So welcome. Thanks. And there are several of our front tables here. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part by corporate underwriting from Pacificare, Portland General Electric, and Zimmer Gunsel Frasca. We're very grateful for their support. And I want to remind you that we have copies of today's program available on audio CD as well as on videotape. So on to our program. The last couple of years have been tough ones for our community in so many ways. True, the economy and joblessness in Portland have been worse than for many years, and crime rates always rise with the unemployment rate. True, the city's budgets are under stress, and police budgets aren't adequate for our needs for both numbers of police on the beat and the levels of police training that we look for. But we must ask ourselves whether the rise in violent crime in our neighborhoods and the string of deaths at the hands of the police are an inevitable reaction to these economic stresses. Are we all puppets in the invisible hand of the economy? Today's panel will give us a variety of perspectives about the sources and consequences of violence in our community. Perhaps no journalist has cast a more probing look at these issues than our moderator, S. Renee Mitchell, in her twice-weekly column at the Oregonian. I've always appreciated her column because her views can never be pigeonholed as representing a particular perspective, political persuasion or particular constituency. Her positions on these issues are her own. Renee is also a true hurricane of nervous creativity. She is the mother of 3 children, and she's an adjunct professor of English at Portland State University. She tells people that her job at the Oregonian is the best job she's ever had, but what really feeds her spirit is writing poetry. Renee has authored and self-published 2 books of poetry. She's also been a playwright and recording artist. She's working on her first novel, which is called Tangoing with Tornadoes, which is about a professional woman surviving an emotionally abusive relationship. In January, she will be writing, producing, and starring in a play by the same name and on the same topic at the Interstate Firehouse Cultural Center in North Portland. So welcome, Renee.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this subject, and thank you for having the courage to explore this issue. I've written about it a number of times in my column, and I would like to just let you know we will be taking questions from the audience, and I'm going to introduce my panelists in a minute. But I also wanted to let you know I have copies of some columns that not only I have written, but a couple of my panelists have written, and there's about 100 copies, so please make sure that you pick one up. And in the back of it is a poem that I wrote as a column about a month or so ago about this very issue. When I talk to people about the topic, neighborhoods in crisis, is Portland trigger happy? One of the responses that I got was, well, are you talking about the cops or are you talking about the people in the neighborhood? And that's a very valid point. And I just like to let my audience know that we will be talking a lot about the shootings that you aren't hearing a whole lot about, that you aren't knowing about, either because you don't live in the neighborhood or because it's not being reported in the media. And so those are the discussions that we're going to have today. So I do want to let you know also that this discussion should make you a little bit uncomfortable. I don't want you to come out of here with the same set of expectations, with the same kind of responses when you do hear something about shootings in the media. I want you to take back from this, what can I do? What is my responsibility in this? This should not be about that particular neighborhood, those particular folks. This is all part of the same community, and I want us all to take some responsibility in what happens with it. I'd like to introduce my panel. John Canda is from Portland, and he's been in the trenches on this issue for years. He is the executive director of the Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods. He gets people involved in their neighborhood association. He gets them talking about how they can feel more safe. He is the person that is called to go out and meet with gang members, who is there, who sees their tears and knows that the struggles that they have trying to get out of this kind of environment. And he's going to talk a little bit more about his background and his perspective in a minute. Officer Stradley has been a police officer so long that he is now working and training some of the officers who are the age of his oldest children. He's been there a long time. And he has a perspective that we definitely should hear. He's been shot at a number of times. He's also been the shooter in some occasions. And so he has also been on the gang enforcement task force. He's been on the crisis response team. He's been there, and we need to hear what he has to say about it. LaSeanta is a youth here in Portland. He's from here. And her perspective is very important for us to hear because she knows of the kids out there who are getting shot. She knows of some of the kids who are doing the shooting. And I first met LaSeanta a couple of weeks ago and was very impressed with her intelligence and her perspective and her desire to try to tell that message, to try to get that youth voice out there. We need to hear that. And my perspective, for those of you who don't read my column, is that I am an equal opportunity critic. I'm not only interested in making sure that all of us here have some sense of responsibility, but also the community where these shootings are taking place have some sense of responsibility that they can solve this issue themselves as well. And so I'd like to read for you just a small portion of the poem that I wrote that's in the back of that packet that I told you that is there. It was in response to the fact that we hadn't had the sense of outrage about these shootings. And it's called The Deafening Silence. This is just a small piece of that. The silence is deafening, the offering plate is passing, but our altar calls are lacking any mention that salvation really starts within ourselves. Each one, teach one. But these lessons on how to hate ourselves, pimp ourselves, kill ourselves over a dime bag and a claim of disrespect, neglect our humanity, when that's the one thing we should not put in check. And so the greater community sighs and wonders why we don't try harder to save we, protect the roots of our family trees. A generation of black youth lost to silence because we only complain when someone else is doing the shooting. When it's our own gang banging and looting, we keep quiet. Or we moan about our righteous battle with the man when we're the ones with the guns in our hands. We'll start with the first panelist, John Canda.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here. I told my wife, who's in the audience, that every time before I speak, 2 or 3 minutes before, I get a little nervous. I'm not nervous today, not right now, because this subject that Renee mentioned is something that I'm very passionate about. And it's easy to speak about things in which you're passionate. A question for you. Have you ever had a wound that just wouldn't heal? Something that plagued you day and night. No matter how you turned, no matter how you adjusted, it was just there. Fall asleep for a couple of hours, only to find that it would wake you before the alarm clock or before the sun rises. Another question, has your heart ever been broken? Can you think back to that time when something so dear to you was lost? Perhaps a friend, a love, a family member. And after that, that pain that no doctor could heal was there. My friends, that is the pain that I have of the situation in our communities today. I have been doing this work since 1989, and maybe sometime before that, but that's when I started at the Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods. I'm not proud of one statistic that I'm familiar with, and that is since that time, barring maybe 4 or 5, I have been to every gang funeral in the city of Portland and outside. Now, I don't go because I want to, because I like to, but I go because it's part of what I believe is my responsibility as a man, as a black man in a community. And my staff goes as we speak. They're in schools and in the community right now, trying to find young people who feel like they have no options, that they have no recourse, and they certainly don't have the education or the resources in many cases to make the changes necessary in their lives to succeed. That's the pain I have. When I go home, I used to talk about it a little, but I don't anymore. I know that my friend Mike Stradley understands that, and he could probably concur. You don't talk about it. You don't go to your friends and say, whatever about the situation, because it's just all around us. Wherever I go in my community, I'm born and raised here, and I'm very, very proud to be an Oregonian. But wherever I go, weekdays, week evenings, weekends, I run into people who are outraged about things that are going on in the community. And I just want to point out one fact right now before we get into the conversation about police. And I'll speak very plainly. That's just how I am. If I need the police and I call them, I want them to come. I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care how they get there. I want them there as quick as possible. We need them. And we will always need them, regardless of the unfortunate incidents that happen along the way. So yes, like you and others, I was outraged about the officer-involved shootings. But I was even more outraged after those shootings that 2 African-American men lie dead in the area of Killingsworth and Albina, and no one said anything. That to me tells me that we have a big problem, much larger than perhaps we have perceived in our communities. Where's the outcry? Where are those parents? Where are the friends? And why did we not have countless march after march when it was black on black crime? But yet a white police officer shoots an African American. Tragic nonetheless. But I am still waiting, as Renee's first article mentioned, that where is the outcry? My friends, we have a problem, and it's not in River City. It's right here. And I think one of the problems that I am sensing is that we have become desensitized to a lot of the occurrences in our communities. Now, don't take me wrong, and I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, certainly not the people in this room, so gracious to host us today. But just to point a little light at the fact that people that are supposed to be on the wall watching for these types of things to happen have either fallen asleep or just aren't looking anymore. My point is this. My heart is this community. And we have to settle the debate once and for all that it's along racial lines. It takes all of us to make a community. Though there are some racial issues, it takes all of us to make a community. So my plea to you today is open your heart. Find out what giftings you have, what resources you have been given, or that you've worked so hard and labored for, and find a place to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Officer Stradley.
It was nice of Renee to point out that I'm old. It's true. I've been working with Portland as a police officer for the past almost 18 years. I'll finish my 18th year in July and start my 19th year. I've worked Drugs and Vice Division, all the precincts. I've worked the gang unit in 2 different stints for a total of 6 years. 2 years in the early 90s and 4 years that finished about 2 years ago. In the past 2 years, I've been back on regular district officer patrol in Northeast Precinct, working the afternoon shift. My perspective is from that of an officer. I can't answer questions on administrative issues. I can't answer questions about a lot of things. Frankly, I'm not interested in promoting. I'm not interested in a lot of those questions that other people have to deal with. I'm glad they deal with them because I really don't want anything to do with those issues. So I can't answer questions on that. As a police officer, I'm a defensive tactics instructor, a firearms instructor, part of CIT as Crisis Intervention Team, as Renee mentioned. And I'm involved in the coaching program within the Police Bureau. One of the things I want to make sure that I do get across here today, I know a lot of the stuff that's in the media. And I see some of that. I don't read it all, but I see some of it. And on the news stations. I see myself occasionally on the news. One of the points I want to make sure you understand here today is there's a lot that you're not hearing. The future of the Portland Police Bureau, in my opinion, is very bright. And what I mean is there are a tremendous amount of young, aggressive, idealistic police officers out there, men and women out there that are really going out every day and doing their best. The other day I got off shift. My shift's supposed to end at 2 o'clock. I got in at about 2:15 in the morning because I'd gotten involved in helping on a night shift traffic stop. And as I was heading upstairs toward the locker rooms, there was a young officer that's got 2 or 3 years on, also late getting off. And I said, what's going on? How come you're late getting out of here? And she looked at me with a smile from ear to ear. And she said, yeah, I know I'm late, but it was worth it. I said, what happened? I said, well, early in the shift, I took a call on a stolen car. I've done that 1,000 times in my career or more. People, if a car's stolen from you, it's a big deal. You may not be able to get to work the next day. You've got to figure out a lot of things. You may not have total coverage on that car, so you're not going to get the insurance company to reimburse you. And that was the case for this particular family. And they were really upset about having lost their car, having it stolen. She told that family, I'm going to get your car back tonight. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find that car. And as luck and tenacity would have it, she did. About 1 o'clock in the morning, she found the car. And when she found the car, she didn't do what we normally do and call a tow truck and have the tow come get it, and the people who own the car eventually find out and pay a $150 tow bill. She called the family, said, hey, I found your car. It's unoccupied. It looks like it's still going to run. Why don't you come get it so that you don't have to pay the tow bill? And the family came and got it. And they think she walks on water. Now, that's not anything that you're ever going to see in the media. But I see that kind of police work being done every single day. And it was a real reminder to me, I'm still very idealistic. I do this job for those reasons, for the individual that I can make a difference for on a given day. It's what I love about the job. It's why I won't ever take a promotional exam. I don't want to be part of the management. I know that's necessary, and we have to have that, but it's not for me. And it was a real example of the kind of police work I see every day out there. Young people putting their lives on the line and doing the very best that they can. Now within that, we have a lot of young officers. Just due to retirements and all kinds of stuff that have happened over the last 5 years, we are a young department on the street. With 18 years working afternoon shift, I'm probably the oldest guy on afternoon shift, or at least within the top 10 or so. So we're a young department, 2, 3, 4 years of experience. And I would ask all of you that when you were new at your jobs, whatever that might be, how long did it take you to really become completely effective at your job? It probably wasn't in the first 90 days or the first year. My experience has been in coaching and whatnot, and in my own experience in this job, at about the 5-year mark, you start really becoming effective. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, because I know what this discussion is about, and I'm going to do my best to answer these questions. I have been involved in 2 shootings as a shooter. I've been involved in a lot of other dozens and dozens of near shootings. I've been involved in other shootings where I was immediately there after. So I've got perspective on shootings. One of the things I want you to think about during this entire discussion, if I had a crystal ball up here, and I could look into that crystal ball, and I could tell each and every one of you that sometime in the next 365 days, sometime in the next year, every single one of you was going to experience this. somebody is going to try to run you over and kill you with a car. Now, if you knew that was going to happen sometime in the next 365 days, how would you change your lives? When you parked at the grocery store, where would you park? When you were walking towards the business that you go to every day, what would you be looking at? When you saw a driver pull up and allow you to walk across the crosswalk, what would you be thinking? And how would you view that person? Would you view him with a smile, but still be able to keep a perspective of where can I jump if I have to? Or would you be, how would you deal with that? That's just a question for you to think about when we're talking through this discussion. Every 66 hours in this country, a police officer is assaulted and killed. Every 9 minutes, a police officer is assaulted in this country. In this year, so far, I've been to 2 shooting homicides, the first officer to 2 shooting homicides, and in time to watch that individual die while I'm waiting for medical. See them take their last breaths. This year, I've been involved in several very near shootings. And this year, once, so far, I was nearly killed. Probably the closest I've come, one of the closest I've come in my entire career. It was close enough that when I got home in the early morning hours of the next day, I had to sit in my driveway and compose myself before going back inside because I didn't want my wife and my kids to have to kind of feel that. I'm not unusual. Other officers out there are experiencing the same thing. We've had 16 homicides so far this year. And the reality is, part of what we're talking about here is gangs, we're going to have more. I deal with 0.5% or less. The people I deal with when it comes to shootings and robberies and those type of things, I'm dealing with them because many things have failed to get them to what I deal with. When I put somebody away on a Measure 11 crime and I know that they're going to be in jail when I retire, that's not a success. That's a failure of many things. So I'll do my best to answer the questions.
Let's welcome LaSeanta Jones.
Hello. I came here, I wasn't really nervous, but I guess I kind of feel nervous now. When John Canda was talking, I felt myself saying amen. I have a lot of the same views when it comes to the violence in our community. It was a big topic, and one of our film production class that we have going on at Albina Youth Opportunity School, a couple young men came in and gave us youth a chance to do this big project, so we have a documentary coming out pretty soon on youth violence in our community. But I've noticed that it was such a big topic that the police officer shooting these African Americans, and there was rallies downtown, but not as near as many people showed up as I thought there would be. And after it was all done, it was sort of all done. And a lot of people have a lot of questions and things that they want to ask, but they don't ask questions. And I know that because I kind of felt as if I give them my opinion on it. A lot of people maybe gang up on me and disagree with me. But another thing that I learned is when you go into a situation like that, it doesn't matter what you've seen or what you heard. You always have to go into that situation with an open mind. So for Officer Perry, I went into it as he's an innocent man that may be guilty, but I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt, and I'm going to investigate myself. So I took much time and hours, and I spoke to many people, and I was in the middle of the public inquest and some of the rallies, and I kind of was able to get my own perspective on it, and not everybody else's, and I only think that that's fair for anybody. But in making such a big deal of this officer killing a black man, I think that it's a big deal when a black man kills a black man. You can blame the officer's issue, the issue with James Perez, a race issue, but what do you call it when you're killing people that are the same color as you? Where's the real issue? So a lot of people believe that he should be fired, and like he said, there's a lot of officers out there that are really good people. And, you know, I mean, without them, we would be screwed. We'd be in a lot of trouble. We'd be in a lot of trouble. And I truly believe that. And I really believe that. And, I mean, I have a lot of respect for our officers, regardless of their skin tone or, you know, whatever they may believe in. But I've also learned that whatever job you may go to or whoever may work somewhere, there's always going to be somebody there that doesn't like somebody else for a specific reason. And it may not have been your skin tone, may have been the way you dress or the fact that you don't have as much money. I mean, you know, what school you went to, what neighborhood you're from, what friends you hang around, the things you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be because of skin tone. So, I mean, you know, it's always good to realize that things aren't always because of, you know, race issues. There's many, you know, I'm saying, a lot of controversy between a lot of, you know, between a lot of things, and people don't like a lot of things about other people. So that's kind of the perspective that I had when I went into this situation. But I think that it hurt me even more when I seen, you know, a young man that I know murder another young man that I know, and you know, get off a bus and follow him, you know, down the street to kill him in broad daylight. And it's, you know, why do things like that happen? And a lot of people think he should have been prosecuted and put in jail. Of course he should have, because he committed a crime in malice. And it's only right. But then the question is to ask yourself, is it really necessary to judge them and say that they were bad people because of what they did was bad? I always think that you should go into things with an open mind as far as any situation and with any person. And you should try to figure out what you can do to better that person and figure out why they acted that way. You have no idea what may have made them do that or have that mindset or what they were thinking at that time or what was going on in their life at that time. And as growing up, I've always been a very independent individual, and I feel like everything that I got on my own or with God's help. I didn't always have my mother there or other family members there, but as a young kid, I've grown to depend on those family members, and they kind of made my heart beat, you know. But my mom always taught me, I may not be here regardless of whatever fact, you know, whatever that may be. I might get hit by a car and you might not see me tomorrow. But she always taught me how to be a woman when I wasn't a woman. So even that day when she did, when I was without my mom for the time frame that I was, I still had that knowledge to be able to take care of myself and carry myself regardless. But because she was always there, and a lot of people think that it's always good to put a foot down and be strict on children. And I think that to be a good parent and to actually be strict is to open your own self up to some of the things that they may face and not make it seem, you know, my foster mom always had this attitude, no, that just shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be able to talk to me about it because it just shouldn't happen. So I would never talk to her about it. But my mom and my dad, on the other hand, I could go and tell them anything. And I mean, no matter what I did, and I could feel comfortable with the conversation. And not would they yell and get upset with me about it and tell me I was the wrong person for doing it. They tell me why I shouldn't do it and why they think it's a bad idea. But they would always give me the option to, if you want to do that, that's because I'm going to, you know, they always let me be a woman and taught me how to carry myself and take care of myself because it's going to happen one day. And with any kid from the age of 7 or 8 or 9 or 20, they should always have that freedom to be their own person. And they'll never come to you and talk to you about specific things or problems that they are having if they think that you're going to react in a way that's going to make matters worse. So if you want to really hear what anybody has to say, listen. Listen as if you would do the same thing, or maybe you have done the same thing. Listen like you care and like you want to better the situation, like you want to be able to talk to them the next time there's a bigger problem. And the same goes for the community leaders and for police officers and for the gang members and the people that are selling the drugs. It's always good to listen. I mean, to hear give people a chance to express themselves. Just because someone's a cop doesn't mean that you're not going to like them. And just because somebody's a criminal doesn't mean that they're a bad person, you know. It's a lot of controversy because I know my brothers, if a cop would come up and try to talk to them, they think that they were up to something and probably run. So, I mean, it's a lot of times if you get to know a person, for who they are and give them a chance to express themselves in the manner that they want to, they'll be open to tell you more things and you'll learn more things. But with that, I leave you, if you want to really hear what people have to say, or the youth for what adults have to say, you just have to listen and be willing to hear.
Well, I wish that when I was LaSeanta's age, I had her confidence in front of a microphone. I was a bundle of nerves whenever I spoke. We're going to move on to questions. And one benefit, of course, of being a City Club member is that City Club members have the privilege of asking questions of our guests. But we'd also like to extend that to our Quest School guests today. So, but our first question will come from Nikki Lynch, who's our board host. She's the chair of our program committee, and she's a senior financial analyst at Merrill Lynch. While she's asking her first question, if others could line up behind the microphones, and when your turn comes to ask your question, please identify yourself as a club member or Quest School member, ask your question in 30 seconds or less, and if it's not a question, you'll see my question card here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I found it really riveting to hear all of you and points of view that I think are really, we don't hear so much. And what came to mind in my question came from at the end of John's talk, where he was saying, get out there and become involved. And I guess my question from any or all of you is some suggestions of how effectively, what places we can become involved, and which things that maybe LaSeanta maybe has had experience that have helped her. Thanks.
For me, for example, a film class, Glenn and Ira, they came into our school to give us kids an opportunity to start this film project, this documentary, like I mentioned earlier. And I believe, they didn't come in with their own opinions and tell us what they want. They gave us the opportunity to say what we wanted and how we felt. And it makes you feel more comfortable to have someone allow you to do that. And a lot of times someone will just look at you and decide that they don't like you. And what it really takes is for somebody from anywhere, any school or job, that you see somebody that you might think that you should have a conversation with. It helps. Every bit of it helps to go out and just find. There's so many kids that have nobody. And if you have nobody, you're going to result in some place where you'll find comfort and you'll fit in. So if you just to take the time and really want to spend the time and to get to know them and not to judge them, but just to listen and, give some advice and, you don't have to do anything for them, but just to listen and to show that you care and to give your opinion and tell them. Just find some random person to say, I just think that you are a wonderful person, or you have a beautiful smile, and I believe that you could really go somewhere. It just makes all the more difference. It really doesn't matter if you're in the mall, if you're in the school, you're in the workplace, or just walking on the sidewalk. You never know what person you might run into that really, really needs your help or really needs active encouragement or those few words. And that goes for adults or anybody. Everybody needs that sometimes.
I think one of the points to stress in what LaSeanta was talking about is those folks that she was talking about who are doing the film project took their talents to that school. They didn't wait to be asked. They took it and said, I have these things that I could do for you. Put me in wherever you can. And I think that's something that would be in response to your question is, what can I do? You have talents. Take them somewhere where they're needed. Other comments about the question?
I talked about earlier, I put a lot of people in jail for a lot of years, hundreds of man-years by now. I view every one of those, although I'm a big supporter of Measure 11 because there is a small segment that gets to that point where it does work and it has to happen. We have to take that person off the street. I don't view that as a success. What I see is many failures along the way enabling that person to get to that level that I have to deal with them in that regard. Although my job is very narrow, what I am supportive of is any educational opportunities, any business opportunities. I hear from these gang members all the time, and one of the things she said that's so important is, I like a lot of these guys. I like a lot of these guys. In the summer of 1991, 8 gang members that I knew well were killed in gunfights. And I went to most of their funerals off duty. There's a lot of good, a lot of qualities, leadership qualities, and entrepreneurial qualities. Now, a lot of these guys are convicted felons before they get to a point where they want out, and that hurts them in getting a job. Take a risk. A lot of you people here are involved in business. Take a risk. Reach out to people like John and make employment opportunities available. Yeah, you might be taking a risk. It's different than putting an ad in the paper and taking the most qualified applicant, but you might be surprised. There's so many of these kids that by the time they get to a point where they really do want to change their lives for the better, their history makes it very difficult. And people like you can give them opportunities. Those are the kind of things that would lead to, from 5 years old at Head Start programs on up to the kind of opportunities we're talking about right now, those are the kind of things that would make less people fall into my sights and go into prison on Measure 11 time.
Very quickly, I absolutely agree, Mike. You know, if I, and we continue to have to do this, and staff, 11:30 at night, 2:30 in the morning, have to respond to a crisis incident, a person is taken away in custody of the police, but those who remain, those who are left, siblings, the same ages or younger, maybe older, parents also looking for opportunities. It's not enough to say, well, the Yo Center is down there, it's a Friday night, it's open Monday morning. Go see them Monday morning at 9 o'clock and talk to them about employment. Go to the Youth Employment Institute and see Benny Bogan and Zeke and ask them what opportunities they have for summer. It's almost like we want them to put the guns down, we want them to put the drugs down, but we don't have what it takes to replace it with. It's a losing conversation because they're going to look at me and they're going to say, John, I know you, I have a relationship with you, but is that relationship strong enough to sustain this family I now have? Now, I'm not suggesting we excuse the choices that they have made, because there's some very bad choices, but we have to take a look also at the reason that those choices were made. They are human, and they have feelings, and no one likes to feel like they have no options. No one likes to feel like everybody's against me, but time and time again, I know a lot of them feel that way.
We want to take a couple questions.
Hi, Andrew Wheeler, member. I'm impressed with this group ahead of me here, in front of me here, and the new dimension for me is to see LaSeanta, the idea of peers communicating with and respecting their peers. It seems to me a potential very powerful force. The question that I have has to do with Ceasefire Oregon. They're known for their gun turn-ins. They've collected over 6,000 guns in 10 years, and they do it in various districts with the help of the police and with John Canda often present and organizing and helping. They have least luck getting guns in the north and northeast area. Policemen often say, well, the people in the northeast want to have guns for their own protection, but it seems to be kind of a gun culture, and maybe it's a gun culture some feel out of necessity. I would like to have some comment on that.
I'll go first. There are a lot of guns out there. There are a lot of shootings you never hear about. 5:40 in the afternoon, a few weeks ago, there was a shooting in the Safeway parking lot of MLK and Ainsworth. 5:40 in the afternoon, 10 rounds of semi-automatic .45 handgun ammunition were fired across MLK Avenue. 2 people on their way home from work took rounds in their car. A guy in a bank across the street took a round on either side of the window that he was sitting in front of, doing his job. The next day, we got in a big car chase and foot chase with probably the person who was the intended victim in that particular situation. Did you ever hear about it? No. Why? Nobody was hit. We have shootings almost every day. I go to shots fired calls almost every shift that I work. You don't know about it because it doesn't make the news. I think we need to demand a little bit more information rather than sensationalism from our media.
many kids in my neighborhood, and ever since I was little, if I could ever remember, most of the guys that I've ever grown up around, and women too, had a tendency to carry guns. I didn't know too many of them to use them, but at the same time I did. And only because of the simple fact that if you go somewhere and you want to wear your nice chain or your nice tennis shoes or drive your nice car, you never know when somebody's going to want that and what they're going to use to get that. So in a lot of cases, a lot of people do carry guns to protect themselves. Even, I mean, I know a lot of people that carry guns and don't even use them. It's kind of like a scare you type, you know. They fight you when they have a gun on them. It's a sense of protection, but I think that it's really hard to not feel secure without a gun. Even sometimes I find myself saying, "Well, I can't wait till I get old enough so I get a gun permit." But I like the idea. I like to hunt and do things like that. But I wouldn't want anybody to get the wrong idea from, you know, me carrying a gun. But there are a lot of kids out there carrying guns. Some in schools, and you would never believe where they would be at, or who might have them, what they might be wearing, or what color they may happen to be. But for various of reasons, whether it's to protect yourself, just to be cool, or because they're doing it, or you might need it, or just to have fun and play with it, you know, there's a difference between carrying a gun and trying to be stupid with a gun, and just having a gun to have a gun. But it's a lot of it out there. It's really a lot of it out there, and I think that that's an issue, a big issue that a lot of us face.
Well, let me toss this out there, not necessarily to be answered, but just as a question to ponder. Is the issue that there are too many guns, or is the issue that there are too many people willing to use them? Because they'll find them no matter how many guns we collect. They'll find them somewhere if their mentality is, I want to use this gun.
Briefly, can I just offer also? I applaud my friends at Ceasefire Oregon. That's been a wonderful organization to work with, and I plan to continue and recruit others to do the same. I'm about to offend somebody. It's Friday, and I'm leaving, and I can do that. This society is just a gun-happy society. Bowling for Columbine, if you haven't seen it, you need to do that. Moses, Charleston Heston, president of the NRA. Now, I am not knocking the NRA. This is America. We have rights to bear arms. But look at how we glorify guns in this society. Major movies, so much so that we make sequels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lethal Weapon, Terminator, Governor. I won't go there. But we glorify it. And if we glorify it as adults, what footsteps do we expect young people to follow?
Erwin Mandel, City Club member. For Officer Stradley, your metaphor for the pedestrians and the car was very interesting. Let me ask you, how have you avoided, when you put on all your equipment and go out on patrol, and obviously you have avoided it, also strapping on the attitude, they're all enemies out there? And how do we train the young officers who are on the force and the projected perhaps 20 new hires in the next budget to also avoid strapping on that attitude when they strap on their equipment?
It's a good question. It's kind of a two-parted answer. Every day when I put all this stuff on and I go out and I'm on the street, I am very aware of the risk. My attempt has always been to be very vigilant, but not paranoid. Now here's the difficult thing for young officers to learn. They learn it, but it's hard at first. You go through all the training, you come from whatever walk of life, and you go through 6 weeks, 11 weeks, and then maybe another 16 weeks, and you're on probation for 18 months. And a lot of that training is about being safe. I have kids I want to see at the end of the night. It's about being safe. The difficult thing is when I make a traffic stop, I'm thinking safety. Frankly, I'm thinking about if the guy or person, whoever is in this car, passenger seat, if somebody comes out of that car, because oftentimes I have no idea who's in the car, if somebody comes out of that car, where can I go for cover? What can I do? What's my backdrop? Where's a good place to fire rounds from? There's a lot of things going through my mind. But if it's you that I've stopped in the traffic stop, what you're going to see is none of that. You're going to see that you're treated with respect and kindness, and I stopped you because of this traffic violation, and I'm concerned about your safety. You're not going to see those wheels turning in my brain because I can do it almost without thinking about it now. But when you're new, and we have a lot of new people, that's a little harder to do. It's almost like you're projecting one thing, but you're thinking another. It's kind of a difficult thing, and it's a hard thing to teach, and it just takes experience. I mean, it can be accomplished, but it takes experience.
Thank you.
Guinevere Milius, City Club member. I'm a 1992 graduate of Grant High School, and my experience there was bookended. In 8th grade, I was taking classes at Grant, and there was a homicide between 2 non-students on campus. And the year I graduated, there was a body dumped in the park, and I believe that was a shooting death. What I'm wondering is, and my sense when I was at Grant, while these things were horrible, generally the school felt safe. And there wasn't really, although there were rumors about Grant High School students out in the world, generally the feeling was people were not carrying guns on campus. It was not an unsafe environment. What I'm hearing from LaSeanta is that that's decreasing, that the sense that children aren't armed is decreasing. And what I'm wondering from the two of you at the table that have some historical perspective on this, on those neighborhoods surrounding Grant High School and further north, if your sense is that it's become, if gun violence and kids especially carrying guns has gotten worse or better, or is it kind of the same over the last 12 years, over the time that I've seen in that neighborhood?
I don't necessarily say that it's got worse or say that it's got better, because you don't know how much of it is a secret, how much is not revealed, and if a lot of it's not, then it obviously hasn't been such a big problem. But I mean, I feel just as safe going to school now as I did, 5 years ago. I really think that a lot of time, kids feel that they have to carry guns and so forth because of a lot of issues that are going on. So you kind of, I don't really respect that, but it's just, that's what you want to do, go right ahead. But I mean, I don't really think that I'm the person that it should be aimed at, or the kids at school are who, their problems are aimed towards. So it just really doesn't frighten me. It really never has. So I wouldn't necessarily know if it's gotten better or worse.
I was at the first gang homicide in the city of Portland in 1988 when Joseph Ray Winston was shot and killed in the Columbia Villa. And I've been to dozens and dozens since then. And from my perspective, working the street as a street police officer, the late 80s, early 90s, it was the Wild West in many regards. It's not that bad right now. But in my perspective, the pendulum is swinging the wrong way. There's not enough police officers on the street, and I understand that's due to a lot of budgetary reasons. I don't lay blame on any of my bosses for any of that type of thing, but it's a reality. There's a lot less police officers out there, and the violence is increasing. I think more people are carrying guns. One of the things that LaSeanta is saying, I think, is a lot of the people that carry guns really aren't a threat to me or to anybody else, but the gun becomes available at a party. It's out there. We're not prosecuting gun crimes in this state or throughout the United States really with any real seriousness. There's an address on Northeast Jarrett Street that was involved in a shooting just the other night. There was 8 or 10 rounds exchanged between the house and people on the street. Car was hit 4 times, house was hit 4 times. Another one that's never going to make the media. The person that lives there, we just arrested not too long ago for ex-con possession. He got probation. The gun violence is increasing, and as it increases, a lot of kids get kind of pulled into it because they know somebody who's been threatened their life, and they're kind of like, I got to have something to protect myself. It's a different way of thinking. The rules within some of the gang cultures, or even the outskirts of the gang cultures, are different than yours and mine. Within the hardcore gang culture, If you disrespect me, it's appropriate behavior for me to shoot up your house. Now, if you and I get in an argument, we're neighbors, we might sue each other and all that kind of stuff. That's different. So from my perspective as a police officer, the pendulum is swinging the wrong way. It's not as bad as it was when we had 80 homicides in a year. It's not that bad. But is it heading that way? Potentially, I believe so, if we don't do something.
Well, I see. Well, I kind of thought about it. When I was younger, my brother, I noticed there was a lot of, they call OGs, and there was a lot of drive-bys. Where I lived, like almost every other day, there was a drive-by. I lived on Killingsworth, or my family, people I know could have maybe been involved in those. And then I had noticed that things had really, really died down. A lot of people went to jail, it just were killed, and a whole lot of it really had died down. Now a lot of people were worried about a whole bunch of prison mates were supposed to be released June. I'm not sure when, but they were afraid. And I told them it really isn't them that you necessarily have to be afraid of. I mean, after a lot of jail time, you kind of it's kind of old life. It doesn't not really many gangs. It's blood crip thing. It's just these people don't like these people, and they but I've noticed now that our problem really is the youth, and if there's a lot of those, then I think that there's going to be a bigger problem. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the people that were in jail. I think if they want to cause a problem, they'll use the youth. And I've noticed a lot that the increase and decrease of the kids that are carrying guns and doing the shooting to then when it was the older people that were doing it, like 20s, 25, there's been a big difference, a big change as far as that goes. But I thought that it got a whole lot better 2, 3, 4 years ago. But now it's getting, it's going back up there, and it's our kids that are causing those problems.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say we're running a little bit out of time, so we'll take the next question, and hopefully we'll have room for one more after that, but we'll see.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I'm Justin Gottlieb, City Club member. And I'm wondering, with John and Michael sitting there, with the way all these shootings are reported in the media, it seems like the media is going for a shock aspect, polarizing us versus them. And I was just wondering if you can comment, is there any way to the way that these stories are reported can change to make us more aware of the broader picture and the societal issues? And I'm sure Renee will want her 2 cents as well. So,
I'd like to speak to that. That actually gets at part of my answer for the last question as well. And I was glad that the young lady, former student at Grant, raised that. Because here's what I know about what I believe about media and this situation. It has given people across the state of Oregon the view that my neighborhood, where I was born and raised, and where I live currently, is a bad place to be. I want to let you know that that's not true. I want to let you know that there are people like yourselves working just as hard. People in their front yards pruning their hedges, planting flowers, watching tulips bloom, playing with young children, and taking advantage of what the outdoors can give you in my neighborhood. Okay? Now, here's why we were so surprised when we heard about Columbine and other places. Those young people, in some sense, scare me more. Why? Because they have resources, and they have access to dollars that will buy them all of the toys and the tools that we as parents let babysit them for us, pacify them for us. And while we're out doing what we're big enough to do, traveling the world or whatever, our kids are raising themselves. And so when those situations happened at those high schools, we thought, oh, shock, awe. Not here, certainly not in this community. Well, why not? You weren't watching, and that's the problem.
My personal opinion is we have to hold the media more to task. If a drive-by shooting happened in most of the neighborhoods represented here, it'd be on every news station, probably make CNN. If your house was shot up with 3 or 4 rounds, it would make the news. It happens a lot in the areas that I work. What John is saying is absolutely true. There are quality, wonderful people in every single neighborhood throughout the neighborhoods that I work. And I get invited in for pie and stuff all the time. I mean, there's wonderful people, and I am privileged to be able to know them. But when something bad happens in their neighborhood, it goes unreported, unless it can be sensationalized into something that is of shock value. That's my view. And I think as readers and watchers of the media, we have to demand more information. You're not getting the information currently.
We'll take one more question.
Hi, my name is Carla Dominguez, and I'm from Quest Schools. Well, I'm really interested in what all of you guys are saying, and especially LaSeanta. LaSeanta. I am a youth, and I am really interested about our community and about everyone's lives, and I just want to know what us youths can do, because I know a lot of youths that are willing to help. So what can we do?
Just be willing to listen, same as take direction. Just kind of jump in anywhere and talk even though you're not supposed to talk. That's my problem. Just kind of, a lot of times they put kids and older people in different categories as if they know more than you know because you haven't been around for long enough. But you got to kind of show them, well, I can have a conversation with the best of them. I can talk with you, right along with you. And what it really is just letting them know and letting everybody know that you're willing to do that, that regardless of whatever's going on, you're going to step out and you're going to hear me. I mean, if I'm going to yell in the middle of Pioneer Square, somehow you're going to hear me. And it really takes that, and not being shy and intimidated by somebody twice your age or somebody your age. You have to really believe in what you're doing, and regardless, there's always going to be a lighted path ready for you to walk. I mean, you just have to be really ready to take that, and it's really hard. You'll run into a lot of judgmental people because you're youth, and a lot of people that really aren't trying to pay attention to what you're saying. But eventually, it's like keep calling your employer because you want that job. They're going to either hire you or tell you, get out of my face. So you just kind of can't really give up on any situation, on any matter. And if you want it, you just really got to go for it.
Thank you. And it's really an honor to be here because I love everything that you've said, and I really am for it. I want to help.